So we're going to talk about assignment 2, step 1 today. Now, assignment 2, step 1 does have some requirements that you might think that you might need to follow. Some of those, if you don't have the measurements, for example, for the exterior walls, you may use the ones that we are supporting you with. I'm looking at the final page. So basically, I don't want you to overwhelm yourself with what's required. I'm going to go with what's required from from the very first basic. This is basically you drawing the kitchen that you have created a sketch for on AutoCAD. So basically your sketch should look something like that. As I said, practice. I mean, the kitchen that you have definitely have different measurements, but if you have done the galley kitchen that I posted the video for, you might be able to carrying on the kitchen on your own. So if you are at that stage, you constructed where the cabinets are, where the fridge is, and practiced how the range from the top view is looking like. We also have some cabinet here on those lines that I might not have talked about before, which is we need them because those are the upper cabinet, and they are half in size than the base cabinet. So how to make sure that those lines are going to be appearing as dashed, because they should be dashed. So I'm just going to create a line here. I'm just going to delete that one and create a very regular line. I'm going to click here, and I want to make sure that I have ortho on and I have midpoint, because basically the thickness of the upper cabinet is half of the base cabinet. So that's why I turned midpoint on. And then I'm going to hover over here. I'm going to click, and then I'm going to drag until I get to where the bottom of the cabinet. In my situation, in the kitchen, in the galley kitchen that I have, this is basically the arrangement is that the upper cabinet is exactly the same size as the base cabinet. So that's why I hovered from this point to this point, because this is my base cabinet size, and I want to place, or I want to create an upper cabinet that is exactly the same size in terms of its width, but in depth it is half of the size of the base cabinet. Now we want to turn this into a dashed line. Now I'm going to click on this line here, okay, and then I'm going to hover over into the upper part, and I want to select something that is dashed from the line type menu. So I'm going to click here, and I selected the ACAD ISO. So if you can click on other, all right, and then clicking on load, you can have a lot of selections. Say, for example, you selected this one, and you selected this one. I'm going to click on OK. I reloaded this again and clicking on OK. And then nothing happened, because even if I loaded the line type, I'm still not picking the line itself. So I have to click again after loading the line type. I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to assign it this. Now, if you can see, it's really small in size in comparison to the one that I placed here. And this is a situation, I mean, I'm going to click escape. It looks okay now, but if you zoomed out, you're going to see it's really teeny tiny. And when something like this happens, okay, even if I click on new ones, so I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to click again, and I'm going to click on other, and I'm going to try to load other types. So say, for example, I mean, and the problem is when you're clicking here and trying to select some of those, you might not want to have you just want them to have dashes. You don't want to have a dot between the dashes. Or so, for example, I have the dashed here. I'm going to click OK, and I loaded this one. So this is the new one that I loaded. I'm going to click OK again. And I don't have that. And again, here it's ACAD, and I'm going to click on dashed. Now dashed is solid. So to do this, we need to work with one option for now that I'm going to be presenting, and then I'm going to talk about another option later in the subsequent parts of the assignment. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to select the previous one that I selected before, which is the ACAD ISO 3W100. And in order for me to turn it like this, okay, to how wide the space between the dashes are going to be, I'm just going to right click here on the line itself while it's selected, and I'm going to go to properties. Now, when I go to properties, I can see here that the line type scale, okay, is 1. So I'm just going to move this so you can see it while we are working to change this value. And I'm going to click here and type 5 and click enter. And immediately you will see that this had turned into a wider space. There is a wider space between the dashes, and this is what we want. Okay, so even if you picked something that doesn't look right, we can change that, and we change that by right clicking. Okay, and once we have this menu, we actually are going to go to properties, and when we click on properties, we change the line type scale from here. All right, so that's the first thing that you will need to do once you finish creating the base cabinets and where the fixtures are. Like, for example, here we have the sink, and I placed the shape for the fridge and the range. I also place something that I want that is going to be very helpful to do it right now, which is those lines we're going to remove later because those lines shouldn't be there. Those lines are actually the lines indicating, okay, where the cabinets, the base cabinets start and end. So for example, we have the sink cabinets and it's that size. So I noted where it starts and where it ends. This is only going to be showing an elevation, but for you, so, and I also had some space between the range or the stove and where the cabinet, the base cabinet is going to start and where it's going to end. So I did that. It's going to be very helpful for you if you do it right now, because for example, this is a drawer cabinet, and I think this is one door cabinet. This is another. This is a 2-door cabinet, and this is the base cabinets for the sink. So this is going to help me when I'm just extending line downward for the elevation to tell me where exactly is the position of each cabinet, where it starts and where it's ends. So I suggest that you do this right now, and then we're going to be erasing it. So that's the first thing that you need to do, making sure that all of the base cabinets are accounted for. You don't need to have any dimensions by now, and the lines for the or the hidden lines for the upper cabinets are properly placed. Now, the second part I want to talk about after creating the dash line is we need to start making sure, first of all, I just created this just according to the size of my kitchen, and then I'm going to offset the walls as the assignment is, one of the assignment requirement is about that. But before doing this, I just want to make sure that we, right now when you pick all of those lines here and they are separate for the fridge, we need to start creating something called a block. Now, a block is something you will talk about more in exercise for unit 5. But the block is basically going to give this entity a name and orientation, and we're going to be able to, instead of creating a fridge each time or a sink or a stove, we're going to be able to bring those in any other drawing. Okay, we might need to be scaling them a bit, but at the end of the time, we're going to have them in a library, and that's what we call a block library. So in order for us to group those, okay, so for example, I have this line here, and then I have those two lines together, and I want to bring them with the sink. So how to do that? I'm going to execute a new command here called block. So we're going to type block, okay, and immediately I have it here. So I'm going to click on it. And this is a block definition. The block definition, we identify a group of elements together by a name. So in this, I'm going to type sync. Okay. And I'm going to divide by kitchen, sink, okay, top view. All right, so I identified the name. Now I need to specify a base point. A base point means that I'm going to pick, this is whenever that I'm going to be placing this object again in another project, I need a picking point. So for my picking point here, I actually want to, I'm just going to cancel, I need a pick point. So the pick point can be one of the sides, but and I will pick it as one of the sides for now. My intention was to pick the center point of this circle. So I'm going to cancel this and I'm going to right click here. And I want to make sure that node is not selected, not intersection. I want to make sure that center is picked. And let me see if this is going to pick the circle from here. Maybe if I click on, yeah, so the center is selected. And now I can redefine that because I really need to make sure that whenever that I am picking that object or putting it in another drawing, the center point is where I pick it from. So I'm going to type block again. All right, enter. And as I said, sink, kitchen sink. Top view. This is making me know that this is a top view of the sink, not the elevation. I'm going to the base point. Okay, I'm going to specify. I'm going to click, instead of specifying screen, I'm going to click on pick point here. And I'm going to hover over this point and click on it. And then I'm getting back to my block definition. So the first thing after to define that block is to put the name and then to pick the point. The second thing is to select the objects that you want them to be blocked together. So I'm just going to click here on select objects, and I'm going to start selecting those elements and then clicking enter. All right, and then you're going to see a preview of your kitchen sink. All right, after that, 3 steps: name, picking point, and selecting objects, and clicking enter after each one of those. So here I didn't click enter. I just went to pick point, pick the point, clicked enter, and then I went back again to that menu, selected the object, all of them, and then I clicked enter again, and then the preview appeared. I'm going to click on OK because I defined the sink. Now, if I hover over the sink, you're going to see it's one entity. All right. And what if I, in another drawing or in the same drawing, I have the same sink again? So how do I import it? There is a command called in the tab, insert. And there is, from here, I have insert. All right. And once I click on the insert command from the insert tab, you can see that the kitchen here, or that's one of the recent, that's the only one that we created in this drawing. So that's the kitchen sink top view right here. All right. So I can actually insert it. And once I click on it, you can see that it is assigned by the pick point that we assigned. That's why I wanted to put it in the middle. The pick point is in the middle, right? So if I click it here, it is the same one, the same, it's an exact copy of that original block. Okay, so I'm going to click here just to delete that. And when I delete it, that doesn't mean that it's deleted from the file. It's right now, it's intrinsic to the file, to this file, which is the galley kitchen that we're working on. All right, so I'm going to go to the home tab again. Now, what I actually want you to do is to make sure that the fridge and the stove are, so the stove is 1 block and the fridge is 1 block. And I'm just going to work another one again with you. And then you can do the fridge, but it is very important for us to do the sink as 1 block, to do the fridge as 1 block, and to do the range as 1 block, because this is one of the requirements of the assignment. Okay, so I'm gonna go here. Now I have this line here, which I'm just marking my kitchen space, and I can actually click on it for now, and I can delete it. All right. And let's create another block. All right. So this block is stove, kitchen stove. And this is top view. And I'm going to pick point. Now, when I click on the point here, I can actually click on a point from a corner point. All right. So I'm just going to click on a corner point here. And I'm going to start selecting object after that. So the objects that I need to select now, you can see that I have a line continuously. All right. And this is going to make it a little bit problematic when I want to just select that. So this is what I will do. I'm just going to click escape and I'm going to cancel that for now. And when I cancel, no block is created. And I'm going to trim this line. So I need that line to be only part of the stove. So I'm just going to click on trim. And this is, and I'm going to trim this part. And I'm going to trim this part. So I'm going to click enter later. And now I have all of this. So I just want to make sure that this is happening here again. So I'm going to click on trim and I'm going to trim this part. All right. And I'm going to trim this part as well. And clicking escape. So here we have the range and we have a little bit of a space between this and the countertop. So now I'm going to type block again. All right. And kitchen, oven, and or stove, whatever you want to call it. And then top view. And then I'm going to pick point. And I'm going to select objects. I'm going to click on select objects here. And then I'm going to select all of those like this. And then I'm going to make sure that those two lines are selected as well. And click enter. So the stove is here, the top view, and I'm going to click OK. So we created the stove as a block. And again, if I go to insert and then I go to insert here, I have the two blocks added together. So the only thing that I will leave for you is to make sure that you have the fridge as well. And if you have a dishwasher, okay, the dishwasher, by the way, will need a dashed line. So if you have a dishwasher here, okay, this is another dashed line that you have to create using the exactly same technique that we used. You might use a little bit of a different dashed line. So instead, if the dishwasher is residing here, you might use a line weight that is a line type that is the same. However, you're just going to change the properties for it. So instead of it being 5, maybe it's 2 or 3. So the spaces between the dashes are less than those for the cabinets. So make sure that you turn any appliances that you have when it comes to the top view as one block.